Hi everyone, this is the Lockdown Lecture Series for beginner viola, adapted from the Alios Music Introductions course for the classroom setting. Let's jump into lesson one. So I just want to introduce you all to your instrument. This is my viola. We have three areas. This is the head, neck area, and body over here. On the head we have our scroll, which is the windy part here, the pegs, which is just our coarse tuning, and they are attached to the peg box. The neck is made of our fingerboard, which is the thin black piece of wood here, which is usually made of ebony or a substitute. And then at the very top of the neck here, you'll see this little raised ridge, and that's the nut. On the face, on the body, you have the face. On the front, and our strings run down across our bridge right here. This is our tail piece, which includes our fine tuners, these small things here. This is our chin rest. The F-holes help with sound projection. These are the ribs on the side. This is the back, and here I have attached a shoulder rest, which I will introduce little by little throughout the lesson. So that's your instrument. Now let's take a look at how you would hold it, which is an important part of getting set up with your instrument. I will demonstrate everything sitting down, but you should practice standing up. So I like to think of posture, kind of the foundation of our setup, as rather than thinking of making yourself tall, which eventually you will get tired and start to slump. I like to think of myself as a marionette puppet with one string from the top of my head pulling me up, and the rest of my body relaxes down. And this way I have a tall, relaxed posture. And when you're standing, your feet should be shoulder width, your left foot slightly forward, and that's the balance base of holding our instrument. So let's take a look at actually setting it up and holding it. Now to do this, what you're going to do is you can start by holding it with both hands with the face facing away from you. Take your left hand, place it on the body, and then you are going to look forward, and with your left hand bring it up to your left shoulder, set it on your shoulder, then turn your face towards your chin, particularly towards the chin, the scroll over there, and then you're going to gently squeeze with your neck and your shoulder, lightly pinching it, and then that's actually what holds your instrument, because your left hand will be busy playing lots of awesome notes here very shortly. So just a couple notes now about how it should fit on your shoulder. The instrument's designed to fill that space as comfortably as possible. Now, for violinists, I almost always recommend getting a shoulder rest, because that's quite a big space, and violins are usually a thinner instrument, and you need something to help fill that gap. Violas can sometimes be thicker, so you may want a lower shoulder rest, or you may not want one at all. You may want a pad instead. There are pads that you can get. If you want a shoulder rest, I recommend the Kun Bravo, because it has feet that do a good job not scratching up the instrument, and they attach well to the instrument, and it's very adjustable. When you set up your shoulder rest, make sure that the dip right here is on the same side as the chin rest. You can adjust the angle of it. You can keep it horizontal or angled this way or that way. You can adjust it to however is comfortable. So once you've adjusted your shoulder rest, and you really want to make sure that when you set your instrument, it doesn't feel like you've made a huge change to how you're standing. You know, if your shoulder is normally down like this, and you set your instrument and you just lightly raise it, it should be about right. If you feel like you have to do this to keep your instrument on your shoulder, you may want to raise that shoulder rest. On the other hand, if you feel like you put the instrument by your shoulder and it is stretching your neck out, you may want to shorten the shoulder rest, or maybe consider not using one and using a sponge instead, or maybe a pad. So let's get back to our posture exercise. So we're going to take it with our left hand, face away from us, look straight ahead, set it on your shoulder. You're going to turn your chin towards the scroll, and then you are going to gently release your left hand, but keep it close, because you don't want it to slip off your chin and fall on the ground. That would be terrible. And you're going to count to 3. 1, 2, 3, and then you grab it again with your hand and just kind of make sure there's no tension, relax. And you do the same thing again. 1, 2, 3, and you're going to do that 3 times just to get used to holding it with your chin. Now just, a note is that you want to make sure that it is sitting on your shoulder, not in front of you on your collarbone. If it's on the collarbone, it will drop immediately and you'll be using your hand to pick it up, which means it will just eventually come back down again. If it's on the shoulder, this is a much more open posture. You can stand facing your audience and have a much more open posture. The sound will travel better to your audience. As opposed to this way, actually the sound is a little bit more directed to the side. So that is our posture exercise, and the first thing that one of the assignments you'll have after your first lesson. So let's take a look at actually now adjusting the pitch and making some notes with your left hand, and take a look at our left hand setup. So I am going to take a moment to draw out a small diagram of our instrument. So now it's summer of 2020, or just after the summer of 2020, and I have taught countless lessons online, and you think I would be better at drawing stuff online, but I'm not. It's still difficult to draw with a mouse. Several of my students have recommended I get one of those pads for drawing, and maybe I will, but I haven't yet. But this is just a partial drawing of our instrument, so I can just diagram a couple things. Now, as you're looking at your instrument, just like this, you'll notice you have 4 strings. So here's our 4 strings. They kind of go across like this, and from the angle that you're looking at them here, for the viola, your strings are the C string, that's your lowest, biggest string, your G string, your D string, and then your A string, that's your highest sounding string. So those are your 4 strings in the viola. They sound like this. Now, before we begin actually looking at the left hand, I should just, as a note, say that if you plucked your strings and they don't sound like that, it's probably out of tune. I won't go over tuning here, but you should either talk to your instructor or go into a music store to get your instrument tuned. Now, the other thing is, your fingers will go on the fingerboard, and we kind of need to know where they go. There's a lot of space for them to go, and we're going to put markers. What I usually like to do is to do a thin strip of Scotch tape under the strings, but on the fingerboard, approximately here and here. Actually, I don't know if I need 2 here. So here and here. Where that would be, I will show you. It is going to be a whole step up from the edge of your fingerboard. So here is the first one, and here is the second one. So you want 1 piece of tape here and 1 piece of tape here. There are many ways to set up your finger marking systems based on the school of pedagogy that you're working with. But for these lessons, that's where you want markings or tapes. If you're working with another private teacher that has markings in another place, don't worry about it, but just so you know, every time I reference something about where the fingers go, it's going to be based on these tapes. So let's say you have your instrument tuned and you have these tapes marked. Let's go on. Now, every time we pick up the instrument, we do it correctly. Left hand up on the shoulder, look ahead. The reason we look ahead, by the way, I forgot to mention this, is because if I'm picking up my instrument, I start to look towards the instrument, my shoulder goes with it, and now I'm going to place it on the collarbone. So I just want to look ahead, place it on the shoulder, turn. Now, since I'm good at holding my instrument and not doing it with my hand, I can release my hand, move into the camera a little bit more, and I can now move my hand down here. Now you'll notice that 4 of my fingers are on this side of the fingerboard, and my thumb is on the other side over here. So basically, my index finger is what's known as my first finger, because we don't use our thumb as violists. So here's your first finger in the diagram. And then the second, so that goes by the bottom tape, and my thumb will go across from it over here. It will gently be peeking over. I'll go over the form in just a moment. And the other tape you'll see will belong to the third finger, and the second finger goes in between them. So my hand setup should look like this. Should look like down here, I don't have stickers on my instrument, but you have to imagine them. So where my first finger is, my thumb is right across, just gently peeking out. Third finger would go by where that other sticker is, and my second finger would go in between them. Right now, we're not going to use our pinky finger, our fourth finger. So, just a note, your first and third finger have regular positions, but your second finger does not. It has a higher position, meaning closer to the higher finger. Like here's where 2 could go. And it also has a lower position where that could go. So that's also your second finger. For now, for this exercise, we will only use the higher position. So in other words, your second finger is just going to be sitting right up against the third finger. You know, think of them as like actually making contact. So your first finger will be by itself, second finger, and then third finger will be right next to it on the fingerboard. So back to our exercise. Shoulder, turn the head, pinch with the chin, bring your hand down, first finger on the sticker, third finger on the sticker, and then second finger here. So I now have 3 fingers down on my A string, my highest string. I put all 3 there, and I want my fingers to be lightly rounded. I don't want them to be flat. I don't want them to be like a claw over curled, because that's not going to work very well either. I just want them to be lightly rounded, and I'm trying to make contact with the string on the tip of my finger, the pad of my finger, sort of like the roundest, softest part. So I have those 3 fingers down. I'm going to gently press the string into the fingerboard to make sure I have good contact on the string. Now I'm going to take my right hand. My thumb is going to just sit on the edge of the fingerboard here, just kind of like as an anchor, so it's not like randomly floating around. Then I'm going to take my pointer finger, and I'm going to pluck my A string, which has my 3 fingers down on it. And you'll notice you feel the vibration kind of sit up against the third finger, and that means that that's the note that you're playing, is the third finger on the A string. We call that A3. Then you're going to lift only your third finger. You're going to leave your 2 and 1 down, and then you pluck A2. And you lift 2 and you pluck 1, and you lift 1, you pluck 0. Should essentially sound like this. Okay, then I'm going to move over to the next string. Same thing, all 3 fingers down on the D string. D3, D2, D1, D0. We'll do the same thing on the G string. And then finally on the C string. You should try that a couple times on your own, and once you feel like you're pretty good at that, go back and reverse. So from the bottom string, C string, C0, put down 1, then 2, then 3. You notice it's a little bit more complex because you don't have all 3 fingers to start with. You actually have to place 1, then pluck it. Then you do the same thing on the G string, G0, G1, G2, G3, D0, D1, D2, D3, A0, A1, A2, A3. And that's essentially what we know as our 3-2-1-0 scale. So the 2 exercises that we did today is we did our posture exercise. And we did that 3 times. Okay? Just for now, do that every time you pick up your instrument, just to get into the habit of holding it with your shoulder. The second thing that we did is we did the 3-2-1-0, 0-1-2-3 scale. If you're starting and you feel like your hand's too tired by the time you get to the bottom of C0, for a day or 2, just do the scale going down, but then add the scale going up. And I want you to try to, over the first week that you're practicing, try to get to being able to do it also 3 times. Okay, so that's your posture exercise and your 3-2-1-0 scale. Just a couple of troubleshooting things in case you are working on your plucking and it doesn't sound right. Like for example, if you set your finger down and you try to pluck and you get this, instead of a nice tone, you get this instead, like a thud. Could be a couple things. It could be that your finger is not pressing down enough onto the string. So you need to press enough that the string touches the fingerboard, but not more than that. You don't have to squeeze. Any additional pressure doesn't do anything. So if it's just kind of flat, not really sitting well on the string, it's not rounded sitting on the string, your fourth finger shouldn't be here. I'm just trying to keep it out of the way. Then it might not make a sound. If you are, for example, have your left hand on A3, but your right hand is missing and it's plucking like another string, that's not going to get you sound either. So those are the main two things to watch out for your plucking. So I'm going to do each exercise. You can do it with me. I will not do it the full number of reps, but this is basically the homework for the first lesson is the posture exercise. Left hand on the body, on the shoulder, then you turn your chin. Just find a comfortable spot and pinch gently. 1, 2, 3, and back. Do it 3 times, and then you're going to move your hand down. Put your thumb and first finger across from the sticker. Put 3, 2, 1 on the A string and start your scale going down. A3, A2, A1, A0. Put all 3 fingers on the D string, D3, 2, 1, 0. G3, 2, 1, 0. And finally C3, 2, 1, 0. And you do it in reverse. C0, 1, 2, 3, G0, 1, 2, 3, D0, 1, 2, 3, A0, 1, 2, 3. And that's it. You do that 3 times. If you have the stamina to do that 3 times, you are pretty much ready for the next lesson. That's it. That's our viola lesson 1. So see you guys next lesson.